Hey guys, welcome back to One Stop Biology. So in today's video, we are going to cover few important small topics that is given in the chapter of Principles of Inheritance and Variation. Let me remind you that we have already covered inheritance of one gene, laws of inheritance, and inheritance of two genes, right? So guys, before we start off with all these topics, let me remind you that your feedback is very important for me. So whether you understand these topics or not, please do let me know in the comment section if you like the video or if you do not understand it and if you have any questions, right? And please do not forget to like the video and share it with your friends if you are understanding all the topics on which I'm making these videos, right? So let's start with the very first topic, which is of polygenic inheritance. Now, what we have seen till now is that Mendel's studies basically described those traits which have very distinct, alternatives, like say flower color. Now, flower color was either purple or white. So these are two very different, traits of a gene, or say even a seed shape. So either it is round or wrinkled, right? So basically, all the traits that Mendel discussed in the case of pea plant had two very different traits. But if you look around yourself, if you see, there are many traits, where it's not just this or that, but various other ranges. Like, say, for example, if you take human height, it a person can just not be tall or short, right? So just being tall and short is not two different alternatives. If you talk about human height, there can be a whole range of possible heights, right? So if such traits are present, so basically these traits are generally controlled by three or more different type of genes. So basically, these are known as what? These are known as polygenic traits. So what Mendel discussed was just two different type of genes, right? In the case of pea plant. So what exactly is polygenic inheritance? Here we are going to talk about polygenic trait. That means that the traits are controlled by three or more genes, right? These are polygenic traits. Now, besides the involvement of multiple genes, polygenic trait also takes into account the influence of environment. So here also the environment, is important as it influences the genes. Say if you talk about human skin color, that is again an example of polygenic trait, right? It cannot just be, say, dark or light skin color, but there can be various other, forms of skin color, like we say you are wheatish. Again, say in the case of light, there are variations, right? So let's take an example. Let's say that there are three genes which are A, B, and C, right? So there are three genes which control skin color in human. Now these are the dominant forms, right? So A, B, and C are responsible for dark skin color, and the recessive form A, B, and C are responsible for light skin color, right? So say what I said is, let's say A, B, and C are three types of genes which control skin color. Then these are dominant forms which basically control dark color, and these are recessive forms, right? And they control light skin color, right? Now it can have, so say a genotype, if we talk about different genotypes, a genotype for all dominant allele can be this, right? So this will be the darkest skin color, right? And all recessive forms will be this. Now this will be the lightest skin color, right? But now you can see that since there are three different type of genes involved, there can be various combinations as well. Like an intermediate color can be this with three dominant and three recessive gene, right? So basically here as expected, the genotype with three dominant and three recessive allele will have an intermediate skin color. Now in this type of situation, the number of each type of allele in a genotype would determine the darkness or lightness of the skin in an individual. So basically, if say four dominant are present, then the color will be more darker. Three dominant, it will be lighter. Two dominant, it will be even less. One dominant, it will. So basically, these four are four different variations of skin color. It's not that thus that four dominant and three dominant will have the same skin color. The skin color is becoming lighter as we move to less dominant traits, right? So there can be multiple variations of the skin color depending upon the dominant and recessive traits which are present in the organism. And now this skin color largely basically is impacted by the environment or the climate condition that a person lives in. And that is why it is said that in the case of polygenic inheritance, environment or the influence of environment also plays a very important role, and that also is taken into account. So this is all about polygenic inheritance. Now the second topic that we have to understand is pleiotropy. Now let's see what is pleiotropy, right? So there are instances where we can see that the effect of a gene or on a single phenotype or trait, right? So it is talking about instances where a single gene is involved, right? So we have till now discussed about two genes, more than two genes. Here we are talking about a single gene which can exhibit multiple phenotypic expressions. Now, such a kind of gene is known as pleiotropic gene, where a single gene can have multiple phenotypic expression. One of the example of such kind of gene is the disease phenylketonuria, right? So basically, what the mechanism of pleiotropy in the most cases is the effect of a gene on metabolic pathway, which contributes towards different phenotype, right? So in the case of phenylketonuria, it is caused by mutation in the gene that here, if you see that codes for enzyme phenylalanine, right? It basically the gene that codes for phenylalanine hydroxylase. Now, this gene gets mutated. This is a single gene mutation. And because of this, what happens is basically it impacts the expression, the phenotypic expression. And here what happens is because of this mutation in the gene, there are different characteristics which changes like mental retardation, reduction in hair, and skin pigmentation. So all these phenotypes are impacted just by mutation of a single gene. It is impacted because of mutation in one gene, and it is happening because that single gene can exhibit multiple phenotypic expressions. Because here the gene that codes for phenylalanine hydroxylase, the enzyme, is responsible for the phenotype, which is hair, the amount of hair, the pigmentation of skin, and even the brain development, right? So this is nothing but pleiotropy, wherein one single gene is involved in exhibiting multiple phenotypic expressions, right? Now the third topic that we are going to discuss is of sex determination, right? So the mechanism of sex determination has always been very complex, right? So the initial clue about genetic or chromosomal mechanism of sex determination can be traced back in 1981 when a scientist named Henking traced a specific nuclear structure all through spermatogenesis in a few insects. And it was also observed by him that 50% of the sperm received this structure after spermatogenesis, whereas the other 50% sperm did not receive it, right? So basically, Hanking saw that there was a specific nuclear structure which was consistently present throughout the spermatogenesis, and 50% of sperm after spermatogenesis received this structure and 50% didn't receive it. Now he named this as X body, right? Because he was not able to explain what exactly it is. So as we say, what should we name it? Let's name it XYZ. So he, in the same way, named it X body or X chromosome, right? Now the eggs fertilized by sperm having X chromosome became females. So what he saw that the eggs which were fertilized by X chromosome became female, and basically those fertilized by sperms which do not have X chromosome became males. That is how basically it was determined that X chromosome is the sex chromosome and rest of the chromosomes are autosomes, right? So basically what we say is that both males and females have same number of autosomes. So the number of basically normal genes is same in case of males and females. But if we talk about the sex chromosomes, it is different in male and female. So say if we talk about human being or even in the case of Drosophila, which are the fruit flies, what was seen that males have one X, they have one X and one Y chromosome, whereas this happens in males. Now, whereas females have one X and one X, basically a pair of X chromosomes, right? So here in the diagram as well, if you can see that the male has one X and one Y and the female has one pair of X. So basically males are heterogametic and females are homogametic in the case of sex chromosomes, right? That is the case in Drosophila as well. So here if you see in the case of Drosophila as well, you will see that the male has X and Y and the female has X and X chromosome, right? If you see in the case of birds, female has a pair of, now here it says opposite. Female has a pair of heterogametic or heterogametes and male has homogamete. So here male have a pair of two Z chromosomes and female have a pair of Z and W chromosomes, right? So these are basically example of, in general, if we talk about humans and Drosophila, we call it as male heterogamety, right? In the case of birds, we call it as female heterogamety, wherein the types of gametes formed are different. The two types of gametes which are formed are different, right? So let's see what happens in sex determination in humans. Let's see what happens in sex determination in humans. So basically, out of the total 23 pair of chromosomes, 22 pairs are autosomes which are exactly same in both male and females, right? Now the 23rd pair in the case of female are pair of X chromosome and in the case of male are X and Y chromosome, right? So 50% of the total sperm produced carry X in the case of male and the other 50% carry Y, right? So that is why the genetic makeup of the sperm determines sex of the child. Remember that in our society we usually blame female, the mother, for the sex of the child, but it is the male who has heterogametes, who has two different type of gametes, which decides the sex of the child, whether it is going to be X or Y, whether it is going to be a female or a male. So the genetic makeup of a child, the sex of a child, is going to be determined by the genetic makeup of the sperm. And also in each pregnancy, if we talk about each and every pregnancy, there's always a 50% possibility of either the the baby can be a male or a female, right? So this basically is nothing but sex determination in humans, right? Now let's talk about sex determination in honeybee as well. So in the case of honeybee, the sex determination is based on the number of sets of chromosomes an individual receives, right? So, an offspring formed from the union of sperm and egg develops as a female, right? Now, that female can be a queen or a worker. So, the offspring formed from union of sperm and egg can be a female, which can be a queen or a worker, or it can be an unfertilized egg. And this unfertilized egg develops as a male, which is known as a drone, and this happens by means of parthenogenesis. So there's no fertilization involved, right? So this means that males, since there is no fertilization involved, the males, the drones, have half the number of chromosomes than that of a female, right? So females in case of honeybee are diploid. They have 32 chromosomes, and males are haploid. They have 16 chromosomes, right? So this is nothing but haplodiploid sex determination system. So what is happening is here, you can see this in this diagram as well, that there can be parents. Now parents will be female and male, right? And we said that female are diploid and males are haploid. So here you have 32 chromosomes, here you have 16 chromosomes. Now here if meiosis happens, there are two gametes formed, 16 16, and here again it's since haploid, there is one gamete formed, 16, right? Now here if the male is formed, again it will be 16. Here it develops through parthenogenesis, so there is no fertilization involved. That is why it will be always haploid. And the female is formed by fertilization of a male and a female, and that is why it will always be diploid, right? So female will always have 32 chromosomes. So this is sex determination in honeybee, right? Now, the last topic that we are going to discuss is of mutation, right? So, what exactly is mutation? Previously we said, right, that the in the disease, which is what disease did we discuss? We discussed phenylketonuria, right? So in that disease, the gene that codes for the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase gets mutated. Mutation occurs in that gene. So let's see what exactly this mutation is. Now, mutation basically is a phenomenon which results in, so basically one thing is that it's a random phenomenon, right? And it results in changes in genotype, and that results in changes in phenotype as well. So it is a phenomenon which results in alteration of DNA sequence. It alters the DNA sequence that ultimately results in changes in genotype as well as phenotype of an organism, right? So mutation can result in loss, say deletions, or gain, that is insertion or duplication of a segment of DNA. So there can be alterations in terms of loss of some genes, or addition of genes in the form of insertion or duplication. Now, since genes are located on chromosomes, alteration in these chromosomes result in abnormalities, right? So these are, there can be either abnormalities or aberrations. And chromosomal aberrations is something that occurs in cancer cells as well, right? Now, this mutation also arises due to change in a single base pair of DNA. So, if there is a mutation in a single base pair of DNA, it is known as point mutation. Now, examples of point mutation are sickle cell anemia, right? So one example is sickle cell anemia, where deletion and insertion of base pair of DNA can form. Now, deletion and insertion of base pair of DNA basically causes frame shift mutation. It causes frame shift mutation. So we are going to study all these things in later chapters as well, guys. Right? So don't forget that. Right? Now basically this mechanism of mutation is, you know, it can be discussed in very much in detail, and we are going to discuss these mutations in detail in the later chapters as well. So these are few topics that we had to discuss in today's video. I hope you understood all of these topics clearly. So please do not forget to let me know in the comment section whether you liked the video or not. If you have any doubt, please do mention your question in the comment and I'll reply as soon as possible. Or you can also message on the WhatsApp number which is given in the description of the video. You can ask your questions over WhatsApp as well. I hope you understood the video very well. If yes, please do not forget to like the video and please do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, guys. Thanks. Bye bye.